All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Teen Stock Politics podcast, where today we're going to be talking about something that's very dear to all of us UPI. That's a lie. We're talking about Web3 and cryptocurrency. The obvious buzzwords. And here with me, I have, again, 3 people because this is a panel of 4. Most of the time, I'll be moderating conversation, though. So, listen. Wait, is that thumbs up?
Yeah, that is thumbs up. Dude, let me just tell you something, right? Tanmi and I basically went downstairs and we tried getting thumbs up. Okay?
Didn't get any for me, yo.
Up, bro. You can take this, man. It's all yours. Bro, that's basically. Anyway, so I just gave this dude a 500 rupees note, right? Now, the problem is, the dude immediately asked me to do it via UPI. The thing is, even though we do have like any kind of currency, or like let's say you have any kind of 500 rupees note, or like even let it be anything, they are still requesting you to give it via UPI. Why? Because they don't have the change for that, and I sense that as a problem, like a genuine problem, right?
Yeah, the fact that a shopkeeper is willing to refuse legal tender, which is actually state sanctioned money. When somebody is refusing that, that talks about that's there's honestly both a positive and a negative aspect to it. It shows how much we have already immersed ourselves into a digital ecosystem with UPI. That even a shopkeeper in the streets of Indranagar is saying that, hey, I'm not taking cash. You give it to me in
Bro,
UPI.
especially this street, bro. I saw there was a couple cows over there. There was here and there. Even then. But like, what is legal tender? Is it like, I didn't know KFC could be legal. Is that like a food poisoning thing with the chicken or?
No, not at all. So let's just say that it is currency that's accepted by the central bank, right? It's not chicken, yeah.
All right. So I heard you are always walking around with that one book, right? Some Ishwar Prasad talking about the future of currency. And you keep telling me CBDC, CBDC. I'm like, what is that, bro? Is that a new band or is that?
Okay, so there's something called the central bank digital currency, right? Now, the thing is, we are in this era where there's constant digitization, and there are a lot of people who are unbanked individuals, right? Now, we need to understand that in a country like India, we have two segments: people who do have banks and the people who what don't, simply don't. Now, the thing is, yeah, as I was saying, the unbanked individuals need to have some kind of way in which we can understand whether they have the potential of being digitized. So the central bank digital currency can enable that. But the key differentiator is that you have something called a commercial bank, you have something called a central bank. Now, if something like CBDC does come in, what happens is that most people want to take that option. Why? Because there's a key differentiator over here, okay? That is the commercial banks out there, they have their money is basically backed against their assets and what else? Their reserves, right? Now, when it comes to CBDC, what's going to be the situation? You're going to see the money backed against what?
Nothing, right? It's fiat
No,
currency,
it's
right?
not. It's backed against the central bank.
Central bank's reserves, right?
Yeah. So isn't that more viable than taking something from a commercial bank? So that's
Honestly, yeah, but again, depends on which country you live in. Yeah, but
definitely.
do we trust the government?
Do we trust them?
I trust. Don't worry.
Same. Can't say anything. Okay.
Didn't RBI shut down some crypto exchange that was coming in? Like,
Yeah, because I keep like I missed the entire hype of cryptocurrency.
yeah,
Yeah,
As
yeah,
an
yeah.
Indian, we couldn't access that, right?
yeah, some Coinbase or
Right.
something, right?
So what had happened was in 2022, Coinbase was entering the Indian market. They had a big launch event and everything. But the RBI and the central government essentially put a lot of regulation on crypto, and the whole idea of crypto being a deregulated, decentralized currency, regulation on crypto essentially killed it in India, right? The
What kind of regulation?
right. So the macro aspect being that. That's the government.
Yeah, that's the government. Yeah, don't answer the call. Don't answer the call.
Regulations. Yeah, so the whole idea being that when the RBI didn't want decentralized currency to become an option in India for multiple reasons. Their most cited reason being it's going to increase black money, right? Which is a valid answer. And then what presumptively the RBI did was they increased taxation on crypto gains so much, and they made it so hard to actually withdraw money from non-Indian crypto exchanges that investing in crypto in India became a very, very difficult ordeal. And post that, developing in the Web3 atmosphere in India became even more difficult. Right now, there's the pros and cons to it. There are valid arguments on both sides of the debate. With I think let's talk about black money first. Right, how black money ties into all of this. The fact is, in India, where only 2% of the income earning population actually pays income tax, cryptocurrency could open the doors for a lot more black money in the system, just because it's decentralized, just because you can hide money in a way without the government seeing it.
No, but isn't the entire point of blockchain to have a public ledger on which every exchange is documented? You have a link to the previous one. So even if you change it on one system, since it's decentralized, since that's the buzzword of the day today, you know that, hey, listen, like this ledge doesn't look legit, right? But like according to me at least, I think the problem is when you can trade these crypto assets for fiat money, which is like basically money that the government issue that's not backed by anything, but it's still legal, right? It's a legal tender. When you can exchange crypto for that, I think that's when it becomes a problem, right? Because then you can basically huck money into crypto, get it out through cash, and then there you go. That's your black money, right?
Exactly. Right.
Okay, got it, got it. But is that a crypto problem though? Isn't that like an exchange kind of problem? Like, how do you think exchange works between the physical interfaces and crypto?
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Like, basically, what do you think is a good way of going about things? Because I think crypto standalone, you think is pretty secure, right? Like,
No, I think what he means to
yeah.
say is cryptocurrency in the social dynamics of a country like India, right? UPI at least was simple that way, and it was regulated, so no one could mess around
Hmm.
with black money. But when it comes to India, because people are still inclined to go into illegal activities, don't you think in a dynamic? It's
Inclined to go
true,
into illegal
inclined.
activities. Okay.
I said what I said.
Okay.
But yeah, bringing such a uh, interface to this dynamic in a country like India where the people are somewhat backward.
I think I rather boringly agree with the RBI on this, right? I feel like India is not yet ready for cryptocurrency adoption in that sense. I do believe that CBDC plus UPI offers a much better digital payment option to Indians than cryptocurrency, simply because the whole idea of cryptocurrency with reference to India it's not that relevant when you think of a trustless P2P system, because what we have right now with UPI is not something that the West has in itself. And honestly, that works for us in a way where cryptocurrency is good for technical innovation, but for the larger use case of India as a 1.4 billion person country, we don't really need it as such. And I do believe that it would cause more problems than it would solve, right? So,
Wait, he has a point, right? Now you should understand. See, everything should be backed by precedents. Okay, now the best example would be Venezuela.
But
Now,
what?
yeah,
That's random.
yeah, that's literally the best example. So what happened was, there was a lot of sanctions that are still being placed on what Venezuela, correct? So what happened was, I don't know whether this 6 to 7 years ago, but what happened was they literally went over and chose Bitcoin as the currency of exchange. Yes. Yeah, they went ahead with Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And the thing is, you need to consider a lot of aspects when you're dealing with crypto. Number one, how is the government making money? Okay, so how are you going to be taxing that particular individual when there's a different platform that's going to be doing that activity? For example, you're using Bitcoin. Is the Indian government going to make anything out of it?
Okay, probably not.
Exactly.
But okay, I get where you're coming from. But don't you think that the like in my opinion, UPI is a medium of transaction, right? But it isn't exactly a store of value. and it can't depreciate or appreciate in value. Like,
That's why the alternative that the Indian government is putting forward to cryptocurrency is not UPI in itself. It's UPI plus CBDC. Even today, UPI is not the store of value. UPI is just a method of transfer transaction, like you said. The store of value is the Indian rupee that is being transacted through UPI. What CBDC wants to do is just replace that Indian money that is entering the system in physical cash money into digital money, right? So how it's working right now is, if I have a 100 rupee note and if I deposit it into a bank, then that's entering the digital payment ecosystem, right? It's not entering it from the government level. What the government wishes to do with CBDC is create an entire to start that process from the digital, right? To ensure that Indian rupee can exist in its own as a store of value as a digital entity without the requirement of having cash in
it's
itself.
like an e-rupee then.
Exactly, like an
All
e-rupee.
right, got it. No, but still, don't you think, like me personally, I thought, listen, I can invest in Tesla, I can invest in Apple, and then I went to my dad. I'm like, okay, I didn't ask him to give me cash, okay, because I wasn't, because I'm a Malu kid. I was, how do I put this nicely? I was very strictly disciplined when I was a child, and I knew that that is overstepping a certain boundary. And so I told him, "Why don't you invest in all these companies?" And he's like, "It's a different stock exchange." And I'm like, "What? How does that make sense? Like why can't Indians invest in the global market?" And I thought, like now looking at it, I think that's also a reason a lot of people leave the country, right? They go to Dubai, Singapore, the US. First of all, the taxation rate. Second of all, you can invest in global markets and stuff, right? And the fact of the matter is that as a whole, the US stock exchange is much more highly valued than the Indian one, right?
I
Like,
think
don't you do some investing here and there? Like, what is your experience with all of that?
Thing is, with I'll give you guys. I mean, is it possible for me to mention a few platforms that I've used
Yeah, yeah.
previously? Yeah. So this
Sure. Not sponsored.
not
Not
sponsored.
sponsored.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this
Neither was a thumbs
yeah.
up. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's this platform called IND Money. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Now you can, what do you call, invest in the US stock exchange using this, and it's a platform that India lets you use, and it's pretty decent. But then it's not it, according to me, because the speed at which you're supposed to be transacting got to be.
no, but I think the nuance we're missing here is that it's not a one-way problem, right? This is, even if you're sitting in the US, let's say you're a US citizen, and if you want to invest in the Indian stock exchange, you can't do that. That's just a general problem with different countries' currency and different countries' stock exchanges. It's not a problem unique to India. And as per the US stock exchange being more valued than the Indian stock exchange, I think value is a very subjective term here, right? Although maybe your valuation of a share in the US stock exchange may be higher, as an investor, what matters to me is the growth potential, which is much higher in the Indian stock exchange, at least at the moment, right? I think that is one thing that cryptocurrency did promise to solve, in that, hey, look, you won't have to deal with currencies in itself. You will, in the sense, you won't have to deal with national currencies like the INR and the USD, because cryptocurrency will be a globally accepted method of currency that you can use to transact. But so that solution that cryptocurrency was offering, the Indian government did leave out on. But I don't think so. This fits into our CBDC slash UPI equation here, at least.
Isn't the okay, listen, I get that you're saying that okay, it's hard to regulate, the valuation fluctuates, and then I can't tax these people as well. But like, the risks in that are inherent in the banking system, right? Did you hear about that Silicon Valley bank run? Well, literally the entire thing collapsed on itself like a house of Jenga, right? Because the investors panicked, they started pulling everything out because Silicon Valley invested in some risky bonds, right? And then they didn't have enough liquid cash on hand to bail to give them their loans, and then the government ended up having to bail them out. So even the banking system isn't concrete or like immune to these problems, right?
So how does
I have to.
CBDC affect commercial
that's
banks?
that's
Is
that's
one thing that I want
exactly
to
where we are
know.
directed towards, right? Now the thing is, like I mentioned initially, right, we got to differentiate between how CBDC works versus how these commercial banks work. So when like I mentioned, when your money is basically put into commercial banks, it's basically based out of their reserves and their assets that you're basically having your money, right? It's credited to your account. Now when it's basically CBDC, the central bank literally holds your money, and when that happens, it is a liability to the central bank to pay us. And the thing is, the chance of CBDC working out will be higher because if there's a what do you call stressor, okay, I would call that a stressor. That is when there's economic stress or some bad situation, people would pull out money from commercial banks, put it into CBDC. Why? Because it's a central bank.
It's like so that's the trust aspect of things, right?
To it, yeah.
No, but what we're looking for is trust without trusted institutions, right? That's the entire point of crypto, that you put it out to the
I
people
think
and
where we weigh in on this, right, is let's talk about blockchain technology for a second. I feel like, with reference to India, better than our finance sector, we can apply blockchain technology to other sectors because
Mhm.
I feel like Indian finance sector, in that sense, is sorted out with UPI, a technology that is
Mhm.
indigenous and that works for us, right? I feel like the core aspects of blockchain technology, that is peer-to-peer networks
Mhm.
and the cryptography that is involved to ensure secrecy,
Hashing, right?
hashing, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that in context to India, one great example where it would be applicable is elections,
Uh huh.
right? So now
Dude. Yeah.
think about it, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the whole problem we have with elections in India today is a lack of trust amongst the
Uh huh.
people who are conducting the elections. The whole idea of blockchain is to solve for a lack of trust.
Mhm.
Now, if you plug elections into the blockchain equation, what you get is essentially digital voting, where
Mhm.
everybody has their own ledger of votes, where
Mhm.
every vote counts, but every vote is anonymous,
Uh huh.
and this is infallible. There is no way this can be potentially compromised. Obviously,
Quantum computers like that. I'm just putting it
Wait,
out
wait,
there.
wait. You have a really good point. The thing is, if you are
Okay, but can we give them some context? Like, why is quantum computers, why are quantum computers such a problem for hashing and encryption schemes, right? Like, I'll just put my 2 cents forth on it. The reason it works, I'm gonna get a little bit technical here because I'm a comp sci kid. I
makes sense, makes
fangirl over
sense.
hashing algorithms.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a
So
little too technical here, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Nah, we're going there.
okay,
We're
then we're
going
going to be
there.
talking about the politics that's going beyond when
Yeah,
it comes to quantum
yeah,
computing as well.
exactly.
Go ahead.
So basically, the reason quantum computing is such a threat to hashing systems in general is because of the fact that the base architecture is not based on bits like a normal computer is. It's qubits, right? And what that means is that it can exist in more than one state than once. And even though it might not sound like a big difference, that superposition allows quantum computers to crunch these numbers really fast, right? And it's not like just normal computers being elevated. It's an entirely new paradigm of computing. And one of the things it's really good at is brute forcing these combinations by hand,
I
right?
think, see, the thing is, that's a bridge to cross when we come to it, right?
Uh-huh.
Quantum computer, we are not at quantum
We're
computers
really
yet.
close
No, no, no,
though.
no,
We're
no,
really...
no. I would definitely disagree with that
Right.
No,
because
no, no. He means like to bring it into a landscape, like I've been talking
Mhm.
about, of India. So right now we are not ready for the
No, no, no,
technology.
no, no. That
It's
that
not a
wouldn't.
matter of being
It's not
ready, it's a
about
national security,
exactly.
right?
The thing
Yeah, that's
is,
what I mean,
the
technically
biggest issue
speaking.
right
Yeah.
now that India, China, Netherlands, Japan, United States of America is basically facing a major issue. Okay, the lack of semiconductors. Okay, so the whole thought process goes towards that. How many of you have basically read that in the newspaper?
No, we
Literally almost
have.
all of us.
Yeah, and that's why Nvidia is like the top
Yeah,
company right now.
Nvidia is, and so is
Yeah.
TSMC now.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
whole perspective that you need to understand is that the global supply chain is basically blocked because of policies that the United States of America is basically placing on China, Japan, Netherlands. Why? The bilateral negotiations that are basically going on between the United States of America, between Japan and Netherlands. Why? Because you don't want to be providing China with, any kind of material. Why? Because the IP rights. Do you think they value any of that? Not at all. Now, that's
You know what? I actually have an interesting
yeah. Go ahead.
question. All right, as an uneducated computers major, I think I represent the audience here. What do you guys think the role of AI would take place in implementing?
No, please, I don't want to answer that question. No, but actually, I haven't thought about it. So, I
No,
think
I
in...
think the fact of the
Yeah,
matter is AI has little to nothing to do with hashing, right? The
yeah.
fact is that hashing is one way. You can encrypt whatever you want using a hashing function, but you can't decrypt
Okay,
whatever.
what is a hashing function? Let's explain that first.
All
It's
right.
basically you put something that makes sense in and it puts gibberish out. That's one way of it. That's encrypting your data.
It's but it's
The
but the fine line of difference being encryption and hashing are different in the sense
Yeah.
encryption is reversible. In the sense,
Yeah.
if I put ABC and get CBA, that's reversible. But if I put ABC, whatever I get as the hash value of that, I can't translate that back into ABC in no possible way. Even if I know the function that. So a hashing function is just a set of mathematical algorithms, but you can't reverse them.
Yeah, so it's seeded with random variables, like the microsecond at which you make that hash, run that hashing algorithm, stuff like that. And the main way it's used nowadays is in peer-to-peer communication, where you have 256-bit encryption or whatever you want to call it. So basically, you generate a giant, yeah. So you generate this really big prime number, okay, and then you generate this other big, really big prime number, and then you multiply those two, and then you get some verification key. So one is a private key, one is a public key, and if I send you something, and then you have the private key to my public key, that sounds wrong. But going on, if you have the
Consent is
necessary keys,
important. Yeah.
yes.
Do not
If
give your private
yeah,
key to your
yeah.
public key to
Yeah.
anyone.
So if you have that, then you get to interact or view that message. And that's why I brought up quantum computers, because they can factorize these numbers that fast, right? Okay, I think we're veering off the
Yeah,
point.
when we come
So
back to
just to
financial
conclude,
systems, yeah.
right?
Coming back to financial
Yeah.
systems,
Just to conclude, right?
yeah.
So we talked about crypto, we talked about why RBI shut it down, we talked about Coinbase's tragedy, and then we talked about how basically quantum computers, right? Sorry, I blanked for a second. So yeah, at the end of the day, do you think it's viable for Indians to start investing in crypto or using crypto, or do you think the RBI will release a
Let's go
CBDC
roundtable on this. Let's start with
anytime?
Adesh and let's.
Yeah, sure. What's your opinion on it?
I feel like after all I've heard, I
Hmm.
don't think we should right
Hmm.
now till regulations come into somewhat a more favorable thing.
Hmm.
As speaking as a general populace,
Uh-huh.
right, to someone who has very little knowledge about this and access to it, but I feel like it could actually revamp the economy a lot
Hmm.
if it was implemented correctly.
Okay.
So that's where I stand on
Got
this.
it. I think, in my opinion, UPI is definitely one of the big ups India has, because US doesn't have it. I don't even think the UK has it. Right? It's solely something that
Yeah,
India
they just
has.
have like PayPal and like
Yeah.
stuff like.
It's a source of soft power for India also, right? Because UPI is adopting across the world. Like today, you can go to the Eiffel Tower and you can have a baguette underneath the Eiffel Tower and pay for it using UPI,
Wow.
right?
Why would you have a baguette under
That's
the
not
Eiffel Tower?
Yeah.
But fair enough.
okay.
Not judging your choices,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that he's right. If implemented currently, it has a lot of implications. But I do think that uh, cryptocurrency as a whole is kind of a black box for some people, and they don't know the distinction between crypto, CBDC, e-currency, and all of that. But I think personally, like what you said, UPI plus CBDC is the way to go, because it economizes finance and it makes sure most people have easier access to cash flow and income and banking options. Yeah. What about you?
See, till and unless regulations come,
Mhm.
it's the best time for people who do illegal activities to get into crypto.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. That's true.
I mean,
Again, this is not
exactly.
advice. This is just an opinion.
Because,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So, the thing is, if you are able to use crypto in such a way that you have it somewhere, right? Now, that's income that you don't want taxed, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, pretty obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, right after that, if you can literally navigate through the way in which that particular kind of currency can be, brought into real normal money, which is still black, but at the same time in a different market altogether, is definitely what do you call great option for people who are doing illegal activities, which is why I do support the CBDC if it does come in, because you'll have a lot of transparency, and this should definitely be in tandem with the UPI. Okay, because if that's not there, what happens is that you won't be getting a system which is globally accepted, or like at least in India accepted. So yeah, pretty much it. You just need UPI and the CBDC to be like
Okay,
interlinked.
great. So Tanmay,
Yeah.
just to wrap it up,
I
since we're
think
getting to a
finally
close on this
weighing in,
episode.
cryptocurrency is not something that's viable on a large scale in India. Two
Uh-huh.
reasons: black money. Other reason I think that we haven't touched upon more, but I think we
Mm-hmm.
should definitely think about is just understanding crypto is so damn hard
I agree.
for the
Wow. Yeah.
for the common populace. It's not something that's viable, right? And if you want to follow the steps of El Salvador, this Latin American country you went, and make crypto legal tender, then you're gonna have to re-educate the entire population on finances, right? So I think again CBDC plus UPI the way to go. I
Yeah.
think we have
All
reached a
right.
swift
Great.
conclusion on
So,
this.
yeah, that's what. So, even with Adesh here representing the general populace, conclusion is, CBDC plus UPI is the way to go. That's 7 letters that even I do not completely understand, but we're going to leave it here. I think I again learned a lot. Thank you guys for hopping on. And that is the end of the third episode of the Teen Stock Politics podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.